This is the news in brief from the United Nations. Radical policing reforms are needed to address systemic racism affecting people of African descent around the world, UN Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said on Monday, as her office published a series of recommendations prompted by the 2020 killing of George Floyd. Among the new measures proposed, Ms. Bachelet's office urged the authorities to reassess whether officers should continue to be the first responders to individuals with mental health problems. The High Commissioner's report on racial justice and equality, which followed the murder of George Floyd, collected information on more than 190 cases where people had died in police custody around the world. It uncovered many similarities and patterns, such as the obstacles victims' families encounter in trying to access justice, said Peggy Hicks, Director of Thematic Engagement at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR.
Accountability is crucial, and I think family members do have some form of satisfaction in seeing someone imprisoned for a crime as violent as the murder of George Floyd, which we all saw on videotape. But of course, there are so many cases where there isn't a videotape, and there are even cases where there are videotapes and people aren't being, justice is not being dealt in those cases.
The report was set in motion after international outrage at the killing of US citizen Mr. Floyd in Minnesota last May. His death was caused by police officer Derek Chauvin, who was captured on video kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. After a 6-week trial earlier this year, Mr. Chauvin was found guilty of second-degree murder and last week sentenced to more than 22 years in prison. Staying with human rights, a top UN independent expert on Monday highlighted concerns that activists in China were being abused and sentenced to long prison terms or house arrest. Mary Lawler, UN independent expert on human rights defenders, said that for doing peaceful human rights work, individuals were allegedly being denied access to medical treatment, lawyers and their families. She urged the Chinese authorities to immediately release those in detention and ensure that they can continue their meaningful and necessary work without fear of retribution of any kind, including against their relatives. Countless reports indicated that the mistreatment of human rights defenders in Chinese custody remained endemic and may amount to torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment, Ms. Lawler said in a statement. Rights defenders who've been forcibly disappeared include Gao Zhisheng, while others, including Guo Hongwei, have died in prison, Ms. Lawler said, adding that she was in contact with the Chinese authorities on the matter. The UN Health Agency on Monday issued its first guidance on the use of artificial intelligence in medical settings, stressing that ethics and human rights should guide how it is designed and deployed. The report by the World Health Organization, WHO, noted that artificial intelligence is already used widely in wealthy countries to speed up accurate diagnosis and screening for disease. The technology also supports major public health interventions such as disease surveillance and outbreak response. Despite these benefits, the report's authors cautioned against overestimating the benefits of smart machines, especially when they come at the expense of universal health coverage. Concerns were also expressed over the fact that artificial intelligence systems had been built on data collected from high-income countries, and it may not perform well in poorer nations. WHO added that although private and public investment of the sector was critical, the unregulated use of artificial intelligence could jeopardize the right of patients and communities by giving technology companies or governments the opportunity to carry out surveillance and social control. Daniel Johnson, UN News.